so hot.
It's so hot. I think your glasses are fogging up.
Oh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Live Your Mission show, brought to you by Mission Meets, where our guests share their most actionable advice so that you can live a more mission-centered life. I'm your host, Peter Alwood, and we're super excited to be announcing the show. I've got my guest here, Nick McCann, my co-founder, Nick McCann. Say hi, dude.
Hey. Hi. Peter, you sound official, man. You're good at this.
Thanks, man. So we're going to be talking today about the show and exactly kind of why we're bringing it to you guys, and then also kind of what the show is about and all that. And so before I get into that, I want to share some of the different types of segments we're going to be having on the show from time to time. From time to time, we'll be talking about what's happening at Mission Meets headquarters. That may be me talking just a little bit about products that are coming up, things that we're working on, things that we're tinkering with, or Nick will pop on with me and we'll do a segment where we're talking about those things from his angle as well. We'll also have a segment where we'll feature customers that are living out their mission. And so if you have someone that you want to nominate, you just got to post on social, hashtag live your mission, shoot us an email, mission@missionmeets.co, for a chance for them to get featured. So we'll be doing that from time to time. And if they get featured, or if that's you and you get featured, we'll be giving you guys some free snacks as well. Also, for the upcoming guests, we'll have people from all walks of life. So we'll do nutrition and, we'll do fitness and stuff like that, which makes sense, right? Because we're Mission Meats snack food company. But we'll also have people from, that are on business and productivity, talking about real estate, all this different stuff. But the common thread will be that they overcame some adversity. They were grinding it out in order for them to live out their mission, right? And fulfill their purpose and what they think their purpose is. And so there are always going to be some actionable tips that you're going to be able to take away, so that you can then immediately take that advice, those tips, and apply it to your life so that you can help either get on the path to your mission or better live out your current mission. And so that'll be some of that stuff. And then also there's a segment of the show where the guest, including Nick today, lucky guy, will get to answer some rapid fire questions while also eating our Carolina Reaper turkey, right?
So hot.
This right here, right? This Carolina Reaper turkey. Okay, so Nick, get ready for that, bro.
So hot.
So stinking hot. And so listen for that. Nick's gonna have his face melted off today, probably. And so we'll just see how many guests can actually get through an entire bag. I'm guessing not very many. And then they'll also kind of fake it. They're like, oh, this is not that hot. Like, no big deal, And then I'll get text later that that their face got melted off after we stopped stopped recording. So, anyways, that's it for now. And Nick, you ready, man?
I'm ready.
Okay, now on to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me.
All right, bro. Like I said in the intro, dude, this will be a little different because you'll be answering questions, but this is Mission Meets related, so I'll be answering them as well. All right. Question number one. When someone asks you what you do, what do you say?
I think about it a little bit, and then I tell them I sell meat.
You sell meat?
They always kind of give me a funny look, but I say I sell meat.
You sell meat. Right,
Yep.
right. So, yeah, and it's kind of a funny one because there are no clean meat related jokes, right? So like no matter how you say it, it just sounds awkward, and then you're like, well, I sell healthy snacks. I have a snack food brand, and so the question that that always is going to follow this is like, why are you working on this, man? Like, why do you care? Why do you co-own a meat related snack brand? Like, why?
Well, I love meat. I studied meat science. I work in. I've always loved agribusiness. Agriculture has always been my dream job, dream industry, and always I've been involved in the meat industry for a pretty long time now. And this is what I do.
Yeah,
I dream about meat at night.
You do. Yeah.
All I do is think about meat and how to deliver more meat and process more meat and make better meat. So
yeah, I can vouch for that, man. All those weird texts I get from you middle of the night, and ideas, and for me, man, I think that, I first of all, I mean, I've always loved jerky. I've always loved, meat sticks and stuff like that. Like I've always loved that stuff, and always loved e-commerce. And to me, this is like the best of both worlds because you get to create relationship, build a brand where people are continuing to buy your product and they're coming back, right? And you build this relationship over time and brand affinity and all that. And you and I think people ask like, oh, so what's it like having a co-founder? I'm like, well, I've had some really bad experiences, and this is not one of those because you and
Good.
I, man, we've got this weird complementary skill set, right? So somebody's like, "Oh, so what's Nick like?" I'm like, "Well, he's got a degree in sustainable agriculture and has been involved in meat science." Like, meat what? Right? And I'm like, "I know. I didn't even know that was a thing." And before I met Nick, I didn't know that people could get degrees in weird crap like that, right? And so it's interesting to me because I've got all this e-commerce experience and I didn't
Right.
know anything about, I didn't know what a VMAG was, and I didn't know what any of these machines were. And
Right.
you know and I didn't know that supply chain was an important thing. And those are all the things that you're obsessed with and that you're constantly thinking about, and you're having ideas in the shower and all this stuff. And so that's why it's been, to me, just a really fun experience because I've gotten to learn a lot of things that I had no idea existed. But then also we've got these overlapping skill sets that are then steeped in research, but then also it's sitting on top of this foundation of it's just a kind of similar moral code and similar interests, right? And so that's why I think things have worked so well for our business. And then so really the next question, man, is like why should the listener care about what we're doing? Why should the viewer be interested in kind of how we have set this business up? Like, what do you think is that what have we done that's been special?
Ooh, that's a good question, Peter. You turn up the heat right away. Well, I think probably one of for me, and I think this is something that's valuable just in general is I think one of the special things that we did is that we made the company about a mission surrounded by we made the core part of the company a mission, which is really giving back profits from the company, right?
Hmm.
So it's not just about selling meat, although that's important.
Hmm.
It's about giving back. It's about donating to organizations that are doing good in the world. I think the other thing that we do is we source better raw material. We use non-GMO raw material. We don't put a bunch of garbage in the product. We're not always using fillers and extenders in order um, to make the product heavier so that we can sell you less product for the same amount of money or less product for more money.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's important. I mean, you take sugar out of the equation. I mean, a lot of our products don't have any sugar, and that hurts yields a lot, and it costs more to put out a product like that. But people don't want sugar anymore. I mean, people don't want garbage in their product. They don't want soy protein or mechanically separated chicken.
Hmm.
It would be cheaper to get that stuff, but we don't have that in there. So I think I mean from my perspective, those are two real key parts of what we do as a business that makes us different and sets us apart.
Yeah. No, dude. This is a great answer. And the thing for me to like piggyback on that a little bit too is that there are so many times where we talk to the one of our plants and the plant manager will say, "Oh no, you can't do that," or "Dude, if you make that, if you choose that raw material, you choose not to put that ingredient in, that's going to be really expensive." And we
Yeah,
say what? We say, "I no, don't care. We'll figure it out." Because we're just not going to do that. We're not going to put that in there. Um, and so I think that's been really special. I also think that we're building a company culture here where it's not just about more, better, faster, and it's not about just working harder and harder and harder. We started this business understanding that we wanted a certain quality of life for ourselves and for our families, and we're not going to compromise that under any circumstance, and we're not going to do that for our employees either. And that's been critically important for me. And I think that's helped us build this culture where we're not constantly overworked. Now, are there days that are really, really hard? Yes. Are there days when I wish I was doing something else? For sure. Like there are hard days. There's no doubt about it.
yeah,
But there's definitely more good days than bad. And when we're having several bad days in a row, you and I will have long conversations asking ourselves, like, what is it that we're doing wrong, or what could we be doing differently in order to keep this from happening, right? I had talking to a friend just the other day, and he was talking about that book I was talking to you about, Sacred Cows Make the Best Burgers, right? And the whole
Yeah.
idea is just that we're just because this is what we've always done doesn't mean that we're going to continue to do that, right?
Yeah.
That's going the way of the Kodaks and the Walmart and the Kmart's of the world. Like we're not going to do
Well,
that.
and it's not just growth for growth's sake, right? I mean, you don't just grow the business to grow the business. You want to have something to say to the world. You want to have something to say to people. I mean, in the end, when you go into business and you're trying to do something, you're really in the end trying to serve people, and you got to have something to say to people. You
Mhm.
got to have a product or a service or something that's going to help people and make their lives better. If you don't have that, then there's really no use in uh, uh, there's no use in doing it. And maybe you'll make a little bit of money, but I don't know if you really get anywhere in the long run.
Mhm.
And I mean, we could release Me Too products a lot of times, right? We could do conventional product, and we could probably make some money doing it. But
Mhm.
that wouldn't be saying anything new to people. That wouldn't be saying anything.
Mhm.
Uh, that wouldn't be any better. We wouldn't be serving people better. We wouldn't be offering anything that wasn't already offered.
Yeah.
So, and they'd just be growth for growth's sake. And what's the fun in that?
That's right. That's right. And the thing is, too, I want to be clear about it. It's like this isn't a couple of founders that are like, "Oh yeah, money's not that important." Money is critically important, right? Like
Money doesn't run. We don't run on rainbows.
we don't run on rainbows, and we're
Rainbows.
yeah, and like you say, we're not doing this recreationally. Like
Yeah, this is not for recreation,
we're
right?
here to
Yeah.
build a company, right? And a
Yeah.
real company,
Yeah.
and we all like money, right? We're not
Yes.
going to like mince. Like it's not. It's
Yeah.
fun to make money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but the thing is like that's not going to be our only goal. That's not going to be our only primary goal, right? Like we're here to do it as long as it doesn't, um, uh, uh, you know, undermine all these other aspects of our business that we've said from the beginning are critically important.
Does it hurt the environment, our family? Is it good for the consumer, or
Hmm.
the buyer, customer? I mean, those are things that all have to be in place. And if they're
Yeah,
not, you know,
we're not going to do it.
it's getting recreational.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so we're not going to. We got to make sure it checks all the boxes, and I think that's one of the things that we've done special, and I think we'll continue to do that. And it's allowed us to say no to a lot of things, and because of that, it allows us to say yes to the right things. And so that's what I've liked about just running this business for the last 4 years, and I think that we can continue to stay focused on that. We'll be continuing to make something special. Of all the things you had to get better at in order to become a quote unquote expert in your field,
Hmm.
what was the hardest?
Ooh, all the things I had to get better at. Boy, there's a lot of. I think that I probably had to get better at listening more instead of jumping to conclusions and jumping to the right answer.
Hmm.
I think I used to talk at people a lot, and maybe I still do. You can you can decide whether that's true or not. I used to talk at people a lot more, and it's okay to try to get your point across, but I think sometimes I didn't start out by asking the question. I'm a big St. Francis of Assisi uh, um, fan, and he said something, and I'm paraphrasing because I'm not as eloquent as he was, but something to the tune of first seek to understand, then seek to be understood. A lot of times I started out trying to be understood as opposed to like, okay, what are people saying? Where are they coming from? What's the actual problem? And instead of taking a step back, I would jump into quote unquote a solution.
Yeah.
And being I've been married for a while, and of course that doesn't always doesn't always work, but it doesn't work in your work life either, right? And sometimes you maybe are not really solving the right problem. You're solving what your idea of what the problem is, and there's about 3 or 4 other people who have a different idea, and those ideas might be better. So sometimes uh, it's important to listen. If you don't do that, then you can run into problems. And I
Yeah.
didn't do that very well for maybe a long time, and probably still have a little more to go, a little further to go on that one too. So
Yeah, we all
yeah,
do. And I think
yeah,
that to me is kind of a constant evolution.
yeah,
Mine's similar. I think that there's two parts to it. One is when you're listening with a solution already in mind, you're not really listening, right? And so like you're already
exactly.
like making assumptions on what they're trying to say or what they're saying, and then because of that, you have what you think's the solution in your mind, and because of that, you actually are not hearing what they're actually saying. And so
Yep.
there's a lot of nuance to that stuff where you're like, oh wait, what's this person actually saying? What's going on in their life that is causing them to think this way that our product or service is not solving for them, right? So sometimes there's like this underlying problem where you're like, oh, I didn't even know that that was a thing, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
my answer is that is if I had to pick something, it would be thinking unemotionally, right? And so if I can sit back and be like, okay, this is not how I wanted this to go, and this is frustrating the piss out of me, but there's something here that I could potentially learn from if I could just take my emotions out of it for a second and just listen, right? Stop being frustrated, stop thinking like I didn't need this today, like all these different things that come to mind when you're having a busy day, and just listen to what's happening. And either that's somebody talking to you or an email or some notification that came up that you didn't want to see, and then try to figure out and try to learn from it. And so
Yeah.
that's definitely been mine. Because for me, I can get real angry. Like I'm a professional when it comes to that. And so, and Nick knows that, that's why he's laughing. And so, if I can take that out of it, then I can learn a whole lot and I can progress a lot faster. And so, I've talked about this quite a bit. Is that if you are operating from a position and a perspective or a posture of fear, then you make typically a lot of the wrong decisions, right? Because you're fearful of your competitor, or you're fearful of what's going on in the market, what's going on in the economy, and all these things.
Yeah.
And your mind is definitely not in this abundance mentality, right? And if it's not there, then you're going to make quite different decisions than you would if you felt like things were abundant.
That's right.
So
Yep.
that's definitely been one of the hardest things for me to kind of overcome, because I think that, man, when you can overcome those things, what you mentioned and then what I just mentioned, you can move a hell of a lot faster. You can be a lot more productive and a lot more successful in whatever it is that you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently? And that could be mission meets, that could be in life, that could be in your marriage, any of those things. What comes to mind that you would have done differently?
A big one for me would be not valuing myself based on my occupation or
Mm,
my income or um, my, you know, maybe how I appear to the outside world, something like that. And I'm not sure exactly how to put that into words, but I think if there's anything that I've learned over the past few years is I am not my job, I am not my income, I am not how I appear, or I'm not what my societal status is. I'm something more, something different than that. And I don't think it's actually helped me to be a lot happier is I don't value myself based on, uh, you know, my career path. I mean, I kind of suffered a little bit from workaholism, worked a lot, and had some issues around just working too much. And part of it was because of how I saw myself and what I thought I was supposed to be about. And turns out that wasn't very healthy for me,
yeah.
both physically and mentally. And I think when I take a step back, I don't see myself in that way, and I'm nicer to myself, instead of criticizing myself all the time about what I'm not doing or what I'm not doing enough or feeling guilty about not working enough or
Hmm.
whatever. If I take a step back from that, um, I'm a lot happier. And the thing is, nothing in my life has really changed per se, except for my mentality around work. But I think I would have been a lot happier for like the last 10 years if
Yeah.
I had, if I had, um, if I had understood that, enough. And there's a kind of an old joke. I don't know whether this is I think it's like a Zen master joke, but when you have like a moment of enlightenment, like, oh, I'm not my job. Oh, I don't have to work all the time. Oh, that's not why I'm valuable as a human being. Then you start thinking, it's like, um, maybe I couldn't come to that realization because I had to suffer for longer or something. They always say, you haven't reached enlightenment, more suffering is needed. But I had to, I had to do that I had to beat my head against the wall for 10 years to kind of finally realize, like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't very healthy. Let's take a step back. Let's treat ourselves a little bit differently. Let's think about ourselves a little bit differently, and we can be a lot happier. And nothing actually needs to change.
Right.
So, and I was I feel like maybe you know, I missed, especially my older kids, I missed maybe some precious moments early on in their life because I was working too much or too distracted by things that maybe weren't very important, and
Mhm.
certainly didn't make me happy. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, that's probably. I mean, I don't have that many regrets, but that's one of the things I'm glad I've learned
Yeah.
at this point, as opposed to continuing to go the way that I was. So,
Well, I think the thing is like you're right. I mean, you need suffering. You
yeah,
need
you
those
need a little
things.
bit. Yeah,
But my thing is always like I want to suffer just enough, right?
just enough, right?
Like if you went through 5 years of that, you're like, man, I probably only needed 1 year. Like I probably, 1 year of that was probably enough. It was 4 extra years of suffering. I probably didn't need it to learn it. I learned it already. Um,
That's right.
and
Yeah.
so, you know, the thing for me is, and I'm gonna be careful with this. Is like I think for me, it's been like not paying attention to what you're good at. That also brings you that overlaps with brings you makes you maybe makes you feel like you're fulfilling your purpose or brings you joy or maybe both of those things,
Yeah.
um, and just not paying attention to what those things are. And I'm going to be careful with it because I don't think it has to be your profession. I think that you can have a
Mhm.
profession that you're really good at, that pays the bills, that puts a roof over your head and all that. You maybe don't like it that much or it doesn't bring you joy and doesn't fulfill your purpose. That's okay as long as you have some sort of outlet that can feed that, right?
Yeah.
And so it reminds me of Derek Sivers did a post, and I can't remember exactly what the post was called, but you can probably find it on his website, talking about how like you don't need to make your art your profession or your profession your art, right? He goes because I know plenty of people that are gainfully employed that are making a lot of money that want to be artists, and I know plenty of artists that wish they were making some money, right? And so you could have a job that pays the bills and supports your
Yeah.
family, and
Yeah.
then have your art that makes you feel like, oh, this is what this is what fulfills my purpose. This is what makes me happy. This is what makes me feel like I'm contributing to society in a very positive way. Doesn't have to be your job. And so for me, it's like not paying attention to what those things are, those things that I could talk about ad nauseum. Hours could pass and I really didn't realize it. And I just felt like I was just alive, right? I didn't pay attention to those things. I only paid attention to what made me feel productive, right? Things that made me feel like, oh, I'm making money. I'm doing what society tells me I need to be doing. I'm quote unquote successful. I'm going to keep doing more and more and more of that and not realizing that I hated it all along. And I had nothing in my life that was making me feel like, oh, dude, Peter, you were born to do this. Like, I didn't pay attention to that at all. If I happened to do that, great, but I wasn't trying to get more of it.
Yeah. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, yeah. So, dude, last part of the segment, and then we'll move on to the melt your face off one. For the listener that wants to live their mission, what's your advice as it pertains to their journey, to your journey, right? So, what are a couple of practical tips that you could say? Hey, listen, these are the things that I've learned in my journey that I feel like can be kind of generally applied to someone who's trying to live out their mission.
Mm. I I would say for me, it's don't be afraid. It's not. It's don't be afraid to to try things. I think, or don't be afraid to look stupid, or don't be afraid. Actually, and I will say this is one of the things I admire about you more than anything. And I don't know whether this is going to sound bad when I say it, but you're not afraid to look stupid.
Yeah.
Which is to say, you're not worried about what I think or what somebody else is thinking. And I think that's important. I think people, or at least from my own perspective in my own life, I spent a long time being afraid to start my own business, or being afraid of what people would think of me. And oftentimes I forced myself to do things, but I made it a lot harder than it needed to be.
Mm,
And I think so many times people are just simply afraid to try things and do things because, and I don't know whether it's school system trains us to be this way, or what it is, but it's almost like if I don't get the right answer, then I'm a failure. It's
mm,
like, well, let's try to reframe that. Like, well, maybe you messed up, or maybe it didn't work, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. It's not the final word on you and who you are. And it took me a long time to learn that. And once I did learn it, for me, I've just enjoyed life a lot more, and I haven't failed any less.
yeah.
But I've learned things, and I've enjoyed the process a little bit more than I did before.
Mhm.
And maybe it goes back to just simply I am not my job, or I am not the trappings of my life or my possessions or that kind of stuff. But for me, it's simply, don't be afraid. You don't have to be afraid. Don't be stupid. I mean, if you're feeling nervous about something, don't quit your job and bet everything on black or whatever at the roulette table as a solution. But at the same time, you know, try to do stuff. The only people who will make fun of you and the only people who will judge you are people who don't do it themselves. Anybody who's ever tried to do something will applaud you, even if it's the greatest success or if it's the greatest failure.
Yeah.
People, I always have respect for people who try. I used to box, as I was an amateur boxer for many years. And you know one thing you always notice about boxers, they don't really I mean, there's some of that grandstanding before a fight when you see the pro fighters, but a lot of times people never really make fun of people for getting their ass kicked in the ring, because everybody knows how much courage it takes to step in the ring and try.
Mhm.
And anybody who's ever done it, whether there's 0 and 100 or 100 and 0 undefeated, anybody who's ever done it knows in the back of their head, has a lot of respect for anybody who's ever stepped in the ring and tried. And I think that's true in life.
Mhm.
Try to have a good crack at it, and have the best crack you can have at it, and let the chips fall where they may. But don't
Yeah.
be afraid to try.
It's great advice, man. And to carry on with that metaphor a little bit, it's like the more opportunities you have to step in the ring, the higher likelihood you have to actually have a win, right? And you just got to keep getting up, and you got to get back in, right? You got to try again.
Right.
And to further that point, I think for me, similarly, it's like you got to venture out, and like you said, not in a reckless way, but you've
Yeah.
got to try things.
Yep.
And you know what? Statistically, if 1 out of 10 is going to work, well, for me, it's like, well, let me get to the first 9 as fast as possible. You
Yeah.
know, if I've got to have 9 losers to find a winner, I'm going to go through them because I know
And
I'm
one
going
in
to get.
10 is pretty damn good,
It's pretty
actually.
right. Yeah.
I had a boss way back in the day. I used to sell stuff to people. I guess I still do, but back in the day, and I was a commission salesperson, and the boss said, if you're successful 1 in 10 times, you're doing really, really well.
Mhm.
So, um,
Yeah.
you
Right,
know,
but how are you gonna get that 10%? You got to get through the 90 that said no, right? And so there's all these books
yeah,
on
yeah,
getting to
that's
know
exactly right.
and all
Yep.
that stuff, right?
Yep.
But and so just knowing, like I know, and friend of mine, Brandon, he talks about it too. It's like, dude, if somebody said no, good. That's one more no in the no bin, and that's one less no that I need to get in order to find a yes, right? And then another thing is that, like there's a quote from Branson. I say it all the time because it really to me is helpful when things just like they were going good and then they're not going good anymore. He talks about Virgin Megastore and closing that down. I mean, what a huge business, right? And
Yeah.
he said it was good while it lasted. And to me, it's like what a much better perspective to say, dude, it was great. It provided a bunch of income. It was very profitable. And then there was a point when it wasn't, and we stopped doing it. And that's
Yeah.
okay, right? You were a boxer and now you're not. That's okay, right?
I wasn't really that good at it. I
but
had
you know,
a,
but you
yeah.
know what I mean? But for me,
Oh,
it's like people can identify with that as a failure and say, I used to run this business, but it went out of business. I must not be good at business anymore. Therefore, I'm never going to try again. And that's
yeah.
quite a bit different than saying I had a business, it was profitable, it became unprofitable. So I made a burger out of that sacred cow and I'm creating a new one, right?
Yep.
And that's okay. There's nothing
Yep.
wrong with that.
Yep.
Like, don't let that define your future endeavors, and it can inform it a little bit. You can say, "Oh, that was a market I was in. I don't really like that market anymore, but I'm going to take what I learned. I'm going to apply it to meat sticks now, right? Or I'm going to
Yeah.
apply it to this or that or whatever it is, right?"
Yeah.
And so, I just think that's something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. For me, that has been crucial.
Yeah. And I got one story, because you brought up, not boxing anymore. And I just one story. I used to do mission work, and I was living in a developing country, and um, a lot of times people would come down for part of my church, and they would come through and do week long or 2 week stints. And one time this guy came down, and he was he was like a Division I football player. He was jacked. He was, had everything going for him. He was on the incline. And I was there, and I was doing different farming projects, doing agricultural stuff. And I was actually shoveling manure and like doing some sort of compost pile. And somebody mentioned it. I was like, "Oh yeah, Nick used to box." And he's like, "Oh yeah, how good were you, man? Were you pretty good at boxing?" I'm like, I looked at him. I said, "Well, I was so good that here I am on the Central Plateau of Haiti, the poorest place in the world, shoveling manure." So I guess so. But just
That's
I always
hilarious.
tell people that whenever they ask me like, "Oh, how good were you?" I'm like, "Well, so good that now I sell meat." So
Right.
lest you think I don't know failure. So anyway,
Right. But
yeah,
guess what? You're on this show
I'm on this show.
about your company, and you're talking about what you learned from boxing, right?
That's right. And the sky's the limit. What can I say?
That's
So
right. That's right. All right, man. We're going to switch gears to what
right.
we're calling the Reaper round.
In case anybody wasn't convinced that I'm eating this, I am. This is this stuff.
And this stuff's hot. And listen, I might
helped develop this.
I might eat a piece or two with you, but listen, I ate a whole bag. If you want to watch it on Instagram, maybe B Croc will cut some video in here. You can see me eating it and dying from it. It's hot. It's real hot. We'll go eat some milk. So I don't have to.
When I smell it, it burns my nostrils. I'm like, my nose is burning right now.
It's hot.
It's so hot.
It's so hot. So I might eat a piece with you, man. Just
Okay, you eat one with me.
In solidarity.
How many questions do you have? What do I got to get through?
Just as many as it takes for you to eat the whole bag. No, you don't have to eat a whole bag. I ate a whole bag. So Anyways, all right. Favorite book. Yeah. Favorite book could be something you read in the last year, a classic, or business, personal, whatever.
Eat it right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin. My favorite book.
What does that even mean? What is that?
The Dispossessed. It's a book. It's a science fiction book by Ursula Le Guin. Oh my!
Never heard of it.
Stop making me. It's
so hot. All right. Early or late riser? What does that look like?
Middle of the road. Middle of the road. Middle of the road. I'm super early, but I'm up with kids, and kids are getting up at 6:30.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't sleep late, but
yeah,
I'm not like a world beater. When I was younger, I was working a lot, and I'd always be like, whenever somebody would call me at night, they'd be like, "Oh, am I interrupting you?" I'm like, "Oh no, just working." Or if they called me early, I'd be, "Oh no, I'm working. Just got done roofing the house all night, whatever." Never stop working. This is hot, guys.
It's so hot. And any quotes you live by?
Quotes.
Yeah.
My dad always used to say, it's not the size of the dog. It's the size of the fight in the dog, not the size of the dog. Is that right? Did I mess that up? I think that's right. I'm eating this hot stuff, so.
It's not the size of the dog. It's not the size of the dog. It's the size of the fight in the dog.
Size of the fight in the dog. That's right.
I like that.
I also like the St. Francis quote: "First seek to understand, then to be understood," which I try to live by, but fail consistently at.
You just got to get up and try, man.
Keep trying. Mm-hmm.
What's your biggest business blunder, and how did it set you up for success later?
Interesting story. I had this great idea that I was going to sell cottage cheese or something, and I learned early on, we always joke, Peter and I always joke that I like to lose money on every sale, but make it up in volume. And I actually set up a continuing line of business for some dairy products back in the day when I was doing some other stuff, where I kept thinking that if I could get to the right volumes, I can get a better price, and I'd finally make money. But I ended up losing money for a really long time. I even have buddies who are still that I still am in touch with, and they still joke about my cottage cheese markets, that I sold all this cottage cheese but never made a dime. It was amazing how much cottage cheese I sold, but we never made any money.
Well, and the thing is, to piggyback on that too, I think that the way we've applied it now is you can figure out that there's a market for the product.
It's so hot, Peter. It's so hot.
It's so hot. I think your glasses are fogging up.
Oh, I don't know if it's too hot. Oh my God.
Don't eat anymore.
I can't eat anymore.
You got ice in there. That's going to make it worse.
Oh. You gotta be able to take, if you can eat this, you better be able to take it. Because, tell you what, this stuff is no joke.
It's hot. It's so hot.
Oh my gosh.
It's hot.
Peter, oh.
So while you're dying, I'm going to keep talking.
You keep talking.
So the way that we've applied this is we'll figure out that there's a market for a product we can sell. And we'll figure out that we can actually make it. And we may not be able to make money in the beginning, but we need to know that if and when we get to a certain volume, that we can actually get better pricing and make the margin make sense. The mistakes we made early on was that we didn't take that last step. And so we would find that we're never going to get to a price that's going to make sense or a cost that's going to make sense. And
there always has to be a clear path to profitability.
There has to be a clear path.
Right. And if there's not, then it won't work.
It won't work.
Oh. Peter, I'm not even exaggerating right now. Oh. Oh. I want to swear right now, Peter.
It's hot. All right, folks, we had to actually cut out for a second as Nick was choking on this stuff. You're back now. You're back.
It's hot.
Stuff's
it's very hot.
Yeah. As I said on my recording of eating a whole bag, dude, that is hot. All right, man. Best under $100 purchase that's most impacted your life recently.
Best under $100 purchase. I don't buy very many things, so. Okay. You know what? It's impacted my life. I started going to CrossFit. I know I sound like.
Oh no, CrossFit again.
Oh no. That's $100. That's $90 a month.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what my wife said? She goes. You don't need to ask Nick about CrossFit. He'll tell you about it.
Yes, you will. You'll actually bring it. You'll bring it into stories, man. Out of left
I'll bring
field.
it into stories. I'll bring it into the show. Okay, if we need something else, CrossFit, it's probably.
But why CrossFit? Like, why has that been a big deal for you?
Well, it's both lifting and a lot of like getting your wind up. And I've been trying to live healthier because I've been. And we talked about how I spent a lot of years working too much.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really pay attention to my health when I was working too much. And, doing CrossFit has helped me to lose weight and get stronger.
Yeah.
And, I just want to be a good dad. I don't need to be, on the cover of GQ or anything, but I want to be a good dad, be able to play with my kids and be able to physically, play basketball and all that kind of stuff with them. And before I started doing CrossFit, I was having a hard time doing that stuff. And after a while, I've been doing it for probably since the beginning of the summer.
Yeah.
And the change in what I'm able to do is significant.
Well, why has it worked for you? Like you've tried other things in order to get physically fit or do exercise regularly. Why has CrossFit work specifically?
The thing that I love the most about it is there's a community around it. I'm the type of person that likes to do things with people. And some people are real individual that can motivate themselves individually. I'm not that way. I really like spending time with people and getting to know people and kind of making friends or being friendly with people. And that's it's just what motivates me. And when you're doing it with a group of people, like if I was doing it on my own, I do 15 minutes or 20 minutes and it wouldn't be that hard. I wouldn't really push myself and I'd be like, oh, that's good enough. But when you're with a big group of people and they're all doing something really hard, you got to kind of pressures you to finish or do your best. And that's what it's done for me that I never really got anywhere else. It's one thing I learned for working out. I do a spin class too. And for working out, if I do it with people, I don't have a hard time getting motivated and going because I actually like the outlet. So
yeah. For me, it's similar, man. I think that not to under $100 purchase. I got something I want to say about that one, but for exercise, like I need to be held accountable Otherwise, I'm not going to work out as hard, like you're saying. I'm
Yeah.
never going to push myself that hard on my own ever, and I'm going to
Yeah.
miss it, right? But if somebody's going to notice that I'm not there, and they're going to say,
Yeah.
"Peter, where were you? Like, how come you didn't show
Yeah.
up?" If I know that's a possibility, there's no way. I'll be damned if that happened. I'm going to show up. But then
Yep.
also, there's no way I'm dropping out. I'm not going to quit because I'm not going to like sit down and leave class or anything. So there's been plenty of times where I've almost thrown up in class
Mhm.
because I'm just not quitting. And it's
Yeah.
probably the one area of my life where the ego actually helps, where it's like, dude, I'm not going to sit down. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
And I'm going to cheat on the under $100. I got a used, and I was talking about this. I got a used Apple Watch. It was like a refurb, 2 generations old Apple Watch. And I've been an Apple Watch hater since it came out. I'm like, the last thing I need is to be more connected. You know, I can't even get away from my phone. Why the hell would I get an
Yeah.
Apple Watch? It's the stupidest
Yeah.
thing ever. And then I realized, like, if I got an Apple Watch with cellular, right, for it's like $10 a month or whatever it costs, that I could actually leave my phone at home. But still, if my wife needed to get a hold of me, she can text her or call me, and I could talk to her on my watch. I
Yeah.
can go running without my phone, but still have music. I can do all these different things, and I can actually physically disconnect from from my phone completely. Have my watch to stay connected to my family if they need to get a hold of me. And so I just had my first weekend without. I just left my phone at home. It was on airplane mode, left it at home, drove away, and just felt liberated from it because I'm like, I don't have to wonder if somebody's trying to get a hold of me. I also found that I pick up my phone way less because I don't know about you, man, but sometimes I'll feel like I thought my phone vibrated and I'll pull it out and it didn't.
Yeah.
Well, now the watch vibrates so hard on my wrist, I know I have not gotten a text. I don't need to walk over and pick up my phone and look at it. I don't need to check the time. I don't need to do any of those things because I know if somebody tried to get a hold of me, my wrist would buzz. And
Yeah.
so I think it was $199 used on or refurb on Amazon or something. And it's been, to me, it could potentially, I'm only a few weeks in, but it could be life changing for me because I just constantly checking my phone, you know? And I'm reminded of a study that Melissa, my wife, had seen that a phone in the room causes people to be super distracted, even if it's off. Like that's how attached we are to our devices. Like we can't even be fully engaged because we're like, oh, somebody call me? Did I get a text? Did I get a notification? You know? And so I can potentially remove that because I don't have any other apps that I'm using on my watch at all, just for communication via phone and text, and then for music, and that's it, and podcasts. You know? So, anyways, that's my cheat of an answer.
Oh,
Um,
my stomach hurts now. I think
I
it's from. It's
Yeah,
brutal.
stomach's gonna hurt, and then bathroom's gonna hurt. Okay. In the last 5 years, what have you changed your mind about, man? Like, what did you previously believe was you know adamant that was true, and now have changed your mind about? What comes to mind?
Ooh, that I was adamant was true, but I've changed my mind about.
Hmm.
Um.
Or to put it another way, like what new belief or behavior or habit has most improved your life? Like something that you used to think was stupid, like my Apple Watch example. That's not that you've changed your mind about.
Well, you. Speaking of apples, when we first met,
Yeah, you're a hater.
I was a big Mac hater, but I'm doing this interview on a Mac now. I do like the how the ecosystem all fits together, and I was a big hater.
Yeah.
And you guys are paying too much for Mac, so I got my computer, but it was $500 less,
Yeah.
and I really like Macs. They work better. I don't have any, I don't have any, I don't ever have any problems with mine now. I don't think I've ever had to like restart it,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was a big hater on Apple products and anybody who bought Apple products, but,
Yeah.
I've definitely I'm singing a different tune at this point, and I credit you with helping me to make the switch and see the light.
bring you to the
Yeah, so that's been a big thing, and I will say, just even my last example, for working out, I used to try to do it alone, and I was always kind of like, oh well, I'm a bigger guy, and I should only work out by myself until I'm ready to go with the group, and
Mhm.
and what I realized was, no, go with the group and just do your best, and
Yeah.
you will eventually catch up, and you will be able to do a lot of the workouts that other people are doing. You're not going to start there, but you shouldn't be afraid or ashamed of yourself for not being in as good a shape as other people.
Mhm.
Everybody starts at a different point, and you don't have to do it all by yourself, and you don't have to be perfect. Anybody who's trying to be in shape and be fit, I mean, nobody's going to judge you. Everybody had to start somewhere, and everybody started not being able to do some of the exercises. So that's actually maybe one thing in my life that I've learned to think about differently. I don't have to get to some certain point to start, right? I can just go and try and go and do it, and I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, just start.
Just start.
Yeah. And it's not just working out; it's everything.
And it's not just working out. Yeah, everything really. Yeah, just go do something. Just go do it. Nike got it right. I hate to plug Nike, but just do it. Just go lift. Just go in class. Just do whatever. So
there's to me, there's like such a big lesson in there, and it's that everybody at some point, no matter the topic, they went from never have done it before to doing it. Right. And all you got to do is rip the Band-Aid off and do it. Yep. Right. And so if there's something that you're like concerned about, you're like, oh, I don't really know anything about it. Well, then go from not knowing to knowing, right? Yeah. Go from not doing to doing. Yeah. And then you'll now not be the person who's never done it before. You've done it once, then do it again.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And that, and that's just everything. Yeah.
That's everything. That is everything. That's everything.
That's everything.
Yep.
For me, the thing that I've kind of changed my mind about is understanding that there's a full value of things, right? So there's not just like one aspect or one, there's not just one aspect to something. So you could say, well, I'm never going to mow the grass. Like there's a poor ROI on that. I'll just hire somebody to mow the grass and that'll be done. That's a better investment, right? But then not really looking at the full picture. Like, oh, well, when I mow the grass, my son comes out and he helps me with this. And then we get to chat about stuff we normally wouldn't chat about otherwise. And, oh, I get to push the mower and I get a little exercise and getting some sun. Like there are other aspects of things that you have to consider. And so like, I think about like our church, they do a set up and tear down every weekend. Yeah. And you could look at it just from a financial standpoint and say, dude, just go rent a building. And now you've got 30 people that are normally doing set up and tear down that could do something else. Like mathematically, this makes way more sense. But then after being on, they call it crew, after being on crew for several weekends, realizing like, dude, it's way more than that. It's a whole community. We're all high-fiving. We're there at 5 o'clock in the morning. We get to know each other on a much deeper level. We're joking. We're laughing. We're like, just sharing all kinds of stories from the week. There's a lot of community that happens during that time, right? And it builds an affinity towards each other and towards the church and all this stuff. So it's like, it's not just it's not one aspect. There's another term I can't think of, but it's not just that one thing. There's a true ROI. Like there are other aspects to the equation that you have to account for. And so I've definitely changed my mind on that instead of being just so unemotional about it. So
it's interesting you say that because we were just at our church, almost the exact same situation. We were doing a little fundraiser and it was like, man, this doesn't make us any money. And then we started talking about, it's like, well, this does build community. Mm-hmm. And this is an opportunity for us to spend time together and get to know each other as a parish, as a church, and okay, well, maybe there's something else here that isn't just about money. And, a lot of life is like that actually. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't agree with you more. Like 110% agreement or more if that's possible.
Which is rare for you, which is rare for you and me, right? You and I will talk about like, I totally disagree with that.
I disagree with you.
Yeah. Not only do I disagree with you, I hate that idea actually.
But in your defense, you're usually right. So
yeah, I guess that helps a little bit. No.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
All right, man. Final question for you. What's your favorite Mission Meats flavor?
Ooh.
We know it's not Carolina Reaper.
It's it tastes good, but man, it's hot. I will get. I like the jalapeno turkey stick.
Yeah,
it's my favorite by far.
It's a good one.
I that's when you own a meat stick company, there's a lot of meat sticks out there to eat.
Yeah.
I have access to a lot of meat sticks, and that's the one I always go to whenever I can. If I'm going to eat a meat stick, it's going to be that jalapeno turkey. I love that.
Yeah. For me, if I'm going to have a little bit of sugar, I'm going to have sriracha bacon or the bacon pork stick. I love the bacon pork stick. So good. Otherwise, I don't know, dude. I'm all over the place. I like the original. I love, like, some days I'm loving bars, man. I'm just eating bars, Turkey's really
60
good.
60 calories, man. It's like a meal, but it's only 60 calories and you feel full after you're done.
Yeah. It's so good. So love them all, man. Well, dude, Nick, thanks for joining. Thanks for helping kick this show off, man. We're super excited about Live Your Mission. Um, and if you're out there and you're watching and you want to try to eat a whole bag of the Reaper, because Nick couldn't do it. He tried, but he couldn't make it happen. You can grab a bag, post yourself on social, trying to eat that. Tag us in hashtag Mission Reaper, and if we choose you and we feature you, you get some free Mission Meats Delicious snacks, and you get to know that you made it, right? That you got featured. So
Yeah, you defeated me.
yeah, you
You
defeated.
were braver.
Yeah,
Of you have more fortitude than I have.
there you
So,
go. There you go, man. Well, until next time. Thanks for
all right.
listening. See you,
Yep.
bro.
See you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. It means so much to me, Nick, and the entire Live Your Mission team. Now, I know every show you listen to asks you to do something: subscribe, leave a review, share the show, blah, 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 all that stuff. That's because it's the best way for us to grow our show, share the message we just shared with you. And so it would really mean a lot to us if you could just pick somebody that you think that would benefit from the show and all the upcoming episodes and share that with them. Also, we're putting out content based on what viewers like you have told us that they want to learn about. And so if you have something that you want to learn about, it's a topic, a person, just tell me. Shoot me an email, peter@missionmeats.co. That's peter@missionmeats.co. And I'll do my best to find someone or find that specific person and get them on the show. And finally, as we said already, if you want to try the Reaper Challenge, grab a bag, eat that stuff, record yourself, post it on social, shoot us an email with it. And if we choose to feature you, you will win $100 in free delicious Mission Meats snacks. And you'll also have the notoriety of being featured on our social accounts. All right, that's it for now. Now get out there and live your mission. Thank you very much.